Say goodnight, motherfucker.
During my Postal 2 Let's Play, I said that Postal 2 was the first 18-rated game I played, and whilst to my memory that's true, around that same time I'd come across the title Kingpin, Life of Crime. And whilst looking for a game that I found interesting enough to review, I stumbled upon mention of it. And with that, the one memory I have of it came rushing back. And that was of being unable to actually progress beyond the first area. Could have been hard, could have been because I was probably about 10 or 11 years old. But either way, I set about getting a copy and seeing if it was as tough as I remember. Luckily for those who care, Kingpin is up on good old games and runs on Windows 7. Kingpin is a 1999 FPS made by Xatrix, makers of Redneck Rampage and an expansion pack to Quake 2. Appropriately enough, Kingpin runs on id Tech 2. Xatrix later become Grey Matter, developers of the single-player portion of Return to Castle Wolfenstein and Call of Duty United Offensive. They were later merged into Treyarch. Take away from that what you will. Let's start off talking about the world of Kingpin. It's a bit unorthodox, but I feel it's a good starting point. It's described like this. Somewhere in the past that never crossed paths with the future. I don't fucking know. This bizarre non-future past is characterised by people that clearly have future tech.
Turn around, asswipe.
Retro-futuristic TVs and radios. Tommy guns are all the rage. And later in the game there's some Art Deco going on. Plus all the music, yes all 6 of them, is made up of short instrumental loops from Cypress Hill songs, which everyone stands around in broken down industrial environments listening to. This past talk must go way back into our evolutionary history because humanity in this world seems to be made up of bizarre proto-men, who were made mostly out of muscles and anger.
So you got the key? The key? I thought you had it. You dumbass! I told you to get the key! Nicky's gonna fucking shit when he hears you thought you forgot it.
There are 4 businesses in this world, and I'm counting crime as just one business, albeit one with a fair bit of internal conflict. Aside from crime, there are bars, pawn shops, and well, there's one bait shop. It's the only one I saw. That's the entirety of Kingpin's economy, and I don't think it's working out all that well. If anything, over the course of the game, things get a whole lot worse for everyone and everything involved. Well, except for the pawn shops, who profit massively. Basically, this whole universe revolves around committing crime or services that aid in the committing of crime. And it's a bit of a shithole, to be frank. The game begins with our protagonist lying in an alleyway post-shit-kicking, having refused to pay protection money to a man called Nicky. But the thugs leave him alive, which in this city must surely be a sign of affection, because as you will learn, 100-man killing sprees don't even warrant a police warning. Now, the game never actually names the character, but the most commonly agreed upon fan name is Thug, which is fitting. However, I'm led to assume it's a pretty generic name in the world of Kingpin. I kind of imagine it like we would imagine the name Steve. In fact, the subtitle Life of Crime doesn't sound terribly out of the ordinary in this universe either, it just sounds like the life everyone's forced into. Now, Kingpin, Life of a Commercial Fisherman, that sounds like a more interesting perspective on this world, but let's just get back to relevance. Thug doesn't get that maybe he should be more careful in future, you know, because Nicky is way more powerful than him. Instead, Thug takes away from this beating that he has to go murder everyone between him and Nicky, and then murder Nicky as well so that everyone else's deaths weren't in vain. So if anything, he didn't quite get what the beating was hinting at. Now, let me skip ahead a bit. Nicky is connected with the Kingpin. You know, the titular top dog, who seems to have nearly every gang in this entire city under his thumb. Nicky is basically right below him. Now, either the main character knows that, and is either insane, ambitious, has balls of steel, or all 3, or he doesn't know that, and by the time he's killed 3 entire gangs and is still no closer to Nicky, he just figures, well, fuck it, in for a penny, in for a pound, and he just keeps on trucking. What little we do learn about Thug doesn't paint a pretty picture. He's kind of a dick to everyone.
Here's your fucking money. I'm gonna bury those 2 motherfuckers.
We know from the start of the game he's cheap. In fact, here's his defining moment.
There you are, mister, what?
Thanks for the ride.
It was my $20.
Hey, hold on a second, will you? Piece of shit.
It's rare I get to call a protagonist an absolute cunt, but I fucking love it when I get the chance to, and this character is an absolute cunt.
Somebody just kidnapped Big Willie's girl. Let's get her back before it's too late. Let's go.
He does have one humanizing moment. You have to go clear out a warehouse to go and find someone's kidnapped girlfriend. But oh dear, her head's been chopped off. And Thug actually sounds kinda shocked by this.
Look what they did to her. I better go tell Big Willie.
Then he decides he needs proof, so he pockets the head to show it to the boyfriend.
Lizzie, I'm gonna take it out on their fucking hides.
He's definitely a character. I'd say that's pretty fucked up, but I'm kind of with him on that.
Not outlaws.
Actually, I know this is going to sound really fucked up, but I figure this could come in handy later on. I'm going to take the head that Swede detached and just stuff it under my robe.
Oh. I'll have to say, the rest of you guys make a fear test. Know that you're dealing with someone who's so fucked up. Nah, not really.
Sam has seen worse.
Could I actually just... Okay, this is going to sound like the worst I did.
Stuff it in one of those boxes.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Can I stuff it in one of these crates just to come back to it later?
Let's just etch in the words, like, do not look under here.
I just walk over there, I just get a note, a bit of elastic, and I start writing something. And then I wrap the elastic around the head and attach the note to it.
Are you gonna throw the head in there?
Yeah, I'm throwing the head through the window with a note attached to it.
God.
Will you allow this?
Yes, I will allow this.
Most of the cutscenes we get throughout our one-night murder-thon are of the Kingpin getting gradually more annoyed that some random guy is somehow ploughing his way towards him, straight through whole gangs of people.
I'm prepared to scour the earth for this motherfucker. He goes back to Skid Row, I want a motherfucker hiding in a dumpster ready to pop a cap in his ass.
I will take care of it.
He can seem a bit lackadaisical about it at times, mind. You know, lounging around and playing pinball while Thug just keeps cutting a swath through his people. Overall, the story's lightweight. It just follows what I presume is a single night of Thug working his way to Nikki through one of the most hostile cities ever conceived, murdering gangs gaily as he goes. It's basically a really lightweight Max Payne on steroids. The setting is rather interesting at the least. It doesn't have quite the same background storytelling that Half-Life did a year earlier, but I did at least get immersed into the world. And a lightweight story is really all it needs for facilitating all the killing that happens. All I really needed to say was that Nicky's a dick. Go kill him and everyone he's ever met. But where's the fun in that? We'll get back to the story once we make it to the final area of the game, the Crystal Palace. For now, it's time for some gameplay. Well, first off, it wasn't as hard as I remember. It was actually a fuck-ton harder. This game has 3 primary features, which are as follows. 1, this game is really fucking hard. 2, this game is really fucking hard. 3, this game is really fucking hard. And you know what, I'll throw in a 4th. This game's really fucking hard. I'll dig deeper into why in a tick, but first, if you don't have the manual, or you're just a twat like me and didn't read it right off the bat, you're in for a rude awakening. This game does not handhold. You either read up ahead of time or you're going in blind and feeling things out. And it can actually lend a pretty interesting edge to the game. I'll get into how not reading up bit me in the arse later on. I did look at the control scheme, but that's only because I had some serious whiplash when the game first started and I pressed W and ended up sprinting left. After that I rebinded everything. The normal control scheme is, understandably, a little antiquated. So you start the game at just above half health, in an alleyway, with only a lead pipe that even the manual describes as just marginally better than your fists. It takes about 5 hits to kill anything, and that's assuming you can hit anything, because the melee hit detection is kinda shite. In every direction are men armed with guns, more health than you, and walking into their territory makes you fair game. And all you know is that you have to kill Nicky. But you don't have a clue where he is, or even what the first step on the road to Nicky is. So naturally I started exploring, and I only got murdered about 10 times. Because everything wants to kill you. Even the mice in this town are fucking predatory, always nipping at you for a point of health. And when you smash them with a pipe they jib into something bigger because they're just that fucking hardcore. Opening with no guns, no clue what to do, and surrounded by armed, tougher people who roam in groups is something I actually found pretty cool. Intentionally or otherwise, it gave the setting a real sense of brutality. It made it feel like a world where I needed to be armed to even stand a chance. And it made me think that even just getting a pistol would be a serious game changer. Eventually I stumbled into the pawn shop, which is a constant companion throughout the game. I have no money, but fortunately...
Hey, welcome to Protagonist, huh? Hey, I see you ain't got any heat. Tell you what, there's a Heilman condenser coil in a warehouse around the corner. My source says it's in storeroom B. You bringing it to me? I'll get you a pistol.
Hey there, unarmed stranger. Break into this warehouse guarded by armed thugs and grab some electric bullshit, and the handgun will be on the house. Well, sure thing, kindly, shady pawn shop owner. So, we got our second quest. Because the first quest of the game is finding whiskey for a hobo for a safe combination in that self-same warehouse.
Yeah, you find me something to drink. I'm gonna tell you something good.
But you know what? I need a firearm, and that's the light at the end of this tunnel. In the land of lead pipes, the armed man is king. So I attempted multiple times to sneak into this warehouse. For a 1999 game that doesn't even have a stealth focus, it's handled okay. You have a dedicated walk button that eliminates all noise, which pretty much alerts enemies dead on because we descended partly from bats in the world of Kingpin. If you walk, all stealth is simply line of sight based. Most areas are laid out so that you're funneled into enemies, however, so sadly stealth is rarely an option. But here it's necessary because that fuck has a shotgun that kills me in 1 or 2 hits. After I got the pistol I came back for the safe, and this actually led to one of the tensest moments I've had in a video game as of late. When I heard running coming from outside, I actually felt an intense urge to get the fuck out of Dodge. Either way, I managed to sneak in and out a couple times, grabbing the condenser and getting a pistol out of the deal. Now, the pistol is piss weak, piss accurate, and it takes so long between shots that I can actually nip off and take a piss. So now, rather than having to get in melee range to let enemies kill me, they can kill me while I stand at any distance. Also, even the most basic gun-toting enemies in this game have 2 handguns. Having just 1 handgun doesn't even rank you as a little fish in this pond. The start of the game is by far the hardest point, but rest assured, whilst it gets easier, it never stops being difficult. And whilst you do eventually get guns that are not only powerful, but feel really damn satisfying to use, enemies are for the most part pretty big damage sponges throughout. Part of the difficulty also comes from their godlike reaction time and accuracy. It's pretty much the same deal Max Payne had a few years later. Enemies rarely, if ever, miss. And this hefty son of a bitch can't exactly shoot Dodge, because I'm pretty sure I break the ground around him. In most every gunfight, you're guaranteed to take a few hits, and it makes the combat feel like a war of attrition at times, and due to sparse health pickups, you have to be on your toes at every moment. Along with that, I can't figure out if their AI is completely fucked or completely brilliant. They can navigate the maps well, sure, but they run around like headless chickens, changing their directions frequently and throwing off my shots perfectly. They act quite similarly to multiplayer bots, and fighting them can be bloody terrifying at times. You wouldn't think that it'd be tough to hit things, you know, especially when nearly everyone is shaped like this, but you'd be surprised just how quick they are. The weapons are pretty standard, even though the selection is a little bit threadbare. You've got the weak as fuck pistol, a very reliable shotgun, a wildly inaccurate Tommy gun. It does have a nice tendency to stun lock enemies, but when you're fighting more than one it stops being useful. A bigger, insanely accurate, nearly one-hit kill HMG with plentiful ammo, which then becomes all you use. We also replace our pipe with a marginally better crowbar for the high price of $1 quite early on.
Oh man, you got $1?
Here's your fucking dollar.
Alright, cool, here your crowbar.
By the way, this guy doesn't even hint that he's giving you a crowbar, it just asks for $1. That is seriously a conversation that just happened in a video game. And then we get the actually pretty handy flamethrower. It burns for ammo pretty quick, but it stuns enemies and does reasonable damage. And plus, unlike nearly every other flamethrower ever, it's not a bugger to hit with. And it makes you feel guilty for using it. It's got everything. We have the worst grenade launcher ever, which doesn't explode on contact, fires on a slow-ass timer and is awkward to aim. And with the enemy's erratic movements, I rarely found it handy, even for retreating or covering corners. And then we get a rocket launcher that does similar damage to a grenade launcher, is semi-automatic, explodes on contact, reloads as fast as a normal gun, has more ammo pickups, and is just generally better than the grenade launcher. Some of the weapon balance is a little askew, but bugger it, the rocket launcher's fucking cool. To wrap up the combat, it's fast, frantic, and it's bloody difficult. Enemies can strip you of all your health in a heartbeat, and once you get the shotgun and heavy machine gun, you can start returning the favour. It also reminded me of Hotline Miami in a way. Sometimes you'd think a slow, smart approach is the way to go, but on some of the maps and with the enemy's aggressive behaviour, you just have to run and gun. It's quite fun. And considering how many retries I have to go through, it's really satisfying once you clear an area of enemies and have free reign over the place. Another thing I love is how the game handles pick-upables. Areas in the game are pretty packed with hidden goodies. Exploring for extra ammo and health pickups is both fun and sometimes necessary. Quite a few of the rooms you're required to pass through also have pickups on high spaces, and a fun little optional jumping puzzle is required to get the goods. Now, as one of the 6 people who likes first-person platforming, you have no idea how much I loved being catered to. Your jump's pretty low, but I rarely had trouble gauging myself, because mid-air control is at least solid. On the bright side, you can pull and push boxes, which I never did because it's never actually necessary for these random extras, but it would definitely have made things simpler. Now, let's go back to the hobo for a second.
Here's some whiskey.
Here's a combination to the safe, man.
After I gave him some whiskey and got the safe combination, I returned to crack the safe and I got some dosh out of the deal, in a nice big pickup. These cash pickups are pretty rare and I can already feel the people who've played Kingpin hating me, and rightly so. The pawn shop is the only place with renewing health pickups and weapon mods. You never need it to get all the weapons in the game, but if you save up, you can get your hands on something powerful long before the enemies start using it. Granted, then you'd also need to keep yourself in bullets, but the option's there. So far as I'm aware, money is pretty rare though, so I've got to be careful with my purchases. Another feature of the game is talking to NPCs. A button for yes or positive answers, and a button for no or fuck you answers.
The fuck did you say to me?
Fuck this shit.
The fuck are you looking at?
Oh, fuck that.
Fucking kiss my ass. Hey, fuck you, piece of shit.
Hey, man,
fucking want some of this?
I'll fuck you up. Oh, fuck that.
Hey, fucking piss off.
Sadly, despite what the manual says about intimidation, I never found a scenario where the fuck you button helped me in my quest to kill Nikki. It's pretty much positive all the way. Talking to NPCs is necessary as they give you quests and let you know where to start headed in a new part of town.
Mister, can you help me out? It's my brother David. He's a prisoner at Moker's steel mill.
You can also recruit followers with a 2-person maximum, who to the game's credit are actually really handy, able to tank loads of damage for me and then die before they can claim any of the glory. I really appreciate them. In one case, hired help is required to continue, and this is where not reading the manual really bit me in the arse.
So what's up?
Yeah, Nicky's got some of my personal shit in a safe in his warehouse. I need somebody to get it back for me.
I need to open a safe during one segment. Thug's only good at murder and not coughing up protection money despite living in gangland, so I need to hire a safe cracker. One costs 50, one costs 200. I can't afford the expensive guy, so I grab the cheap option. He has an unfortunate run-in with the level geometry and ultimately loses. I do the level anyway in the hopes of another solution being available, but my idiocy hasn't been accounted for. So I learned something completely by my own reckoning. But now all the bodies have have been dragged away. Yes, someone is keeping the streets clean. Well, ish. So I do the level again, this time looting everyone for cash. Then I double back to hire the new guy.
So, you got the money? Alright, I'm all yours.
Who never questions just what happened to the cheap option. After he opens the safe, I kill him in hopes of getting my money back. But it doesn't work, so I write off that whole little mix-up as a learning experience. And all it took was countless lives. Lastly, let's talk about the levels themselves. Basically, every area is kind of like a puzzle, where the solution always lies in fetch quests and ultra-violence. Plus, each area brings a new gang for us to eliminate. And each area is made up of small levels connected by loading screens, and once you finish that area, you can never backtrack to it. Let's take the area in my previous little story time as an example. We start the area with no clue where we are, or even what to do to continue progressing. Our objective notepad just has a little description of the area where you start, and it doesn't quite fill you in. So we got to talk to all the NPCs who won't shoot us. We eventually get to Club Swank, and some guy tells us he'll give us a key and hand over the local muscle if we crack a safe for him. So I hired the cheap safe cracker, losing through no fault of my own, have a learning experience, hire a new safe cracker, grab some papers, give them to this bloke, get a key to a nearby warehouse that somehow leads into a sewer. We track down some coils, use them to power a pump, then activate a bridge to cross a gap. And hey, there's Nikki!
Didn't I tell you what would happen if you ever showed your face around here again?
Me, stupid? Tell me, genius, who's a stupid fuck that left me alive in the first place?
Wait, well, that was fucking abrupt. Don't give chase or shoot him in the back or anything. Ah, well, I guess that's extended the game time by about 4 hours. Basically, you go into every new area with very little fanfare. You're dumped in a big new branching area with no real direction. You have to ask around, figure out the dangerous spots, find a local pawn shop and bar, and basically reacclimatise yourself. And it's really interesting. There's no map function, but luckily the areas are pretty easy to navigate. Actually, whilst they are easy to navigate, I've got to add this, and it may seem contradictory, but bear with me. Kingpin is the most fucked up piece of urban planning ever conceived. The guy in charge of laying out this city needs to be shot in the head. Or perhaps he already was, it's a violent town after all. Hell, maybe it's his fault as to why the people living here are really pissed off. The first area of the game, for example. 2 warehouses, 3 alleyways, a pawn shop and a couple of other buildings. The only way in or out is via a sewer. And then we have the dockyards area. First thing we're told to do here is get to the Salty Dog Bar.
Yeah, you ought to go down to the Salty Dog Saloon and get a little help there.
And the Salty Dog Bar is only accessible by swinging through underwater pipes. The Salty Dog. Only for the truly seaworthy. And I'm not being negative either, I actually appreciate it. It keeps a sense of familiarity whilst at the same time feeling disconnected and alien. Intentionally or otherwise, it's interesting. It's the kind of city I imagine being thrown together by people thick as pig shit. Throughout the entire game, there are very few areas that I would call absolutely sensible. And whilst the story is pretty light, the journey and the world building adds a fair bit to it. It feels like a nice little tour through a rather deranged and brutal world. So, after we navigate our way through Clusterfuckville, USA, we make it to the Crystal Palace. Over the course of the game, we've killed more than 5 whole gangs, mostly single-handedly because my companions tended to die. We climb the tower and finally catch up to Nikki, who is killed without any fanfare. In fact, I couldn't even tell you which one of the thugs I killed was Nikki, but they're all dead, so I'm certain I got him. I think a writer realised that killing just a guy called Nikki isn't really all that exciting, and because we've come so far, Thug just decides to kill the Kingpin as well and take his place. It's a lovely bit of serendipity, really. Go after Nikki and hey, we got the Kingpin down the hall. What luck!
Well, here I am, motherfucker. Here's what your soon-to-be dead-ass worked so long and hard for. Just remember, you asked for this shit.
Plus, that's more of a final boss fight sort of deal, you know? The last boss fight has an incredible dick move. The final boss has an assistant, who is completely immune to damage. She just exists to plink away at your health and distract you. By the way, the game doesn't outright tell you she's invincible, and finding out was a giant waste of time. I guess it's somewhat mitigated by the fact that in every level there's been a hidden armory somewhere that you can find and stash up. And in this stage there's a fucking giant one that's left completely unguarded. And oh, the Kingpin's AI won't let him actually enter the armory, so you can nip off to heal up every time it slightly bothers you. It's a dick move that's kind of evened out, I suppose. Oh well. Still annoyed about it though. So just keep pumping rockets into the Kingpin to win the game.
You think this is finished? You think you're the big man now? Nothing's finished and you aren't shit. You're going down for what you did to him. I'll be back for your ass.
Oh, she had to live so she could provide a sequel hook that will never happen. Well, that sucks. She could have been invincible anywhere, you know, so why the fuck did it have to be with the final boss? Then we see that the thug has taken the Kingpin's place. So now crime is being run by someone whose followers have had a 100% mortality rate, is demonstrably a cheap, unstable murdering sociopath with no idea how to run a business of this size, and no actual claim to the position beyond murdering the previous holder. In other words, he's the perfect man for the job. So that's Kingpin. It's a 6-hour or so romp of really difficult yet entertaining shooting. And what have we learned? Well, kids, get someone to fuck you over, because in the course of fucking them back over, not only will you get your revenge, you'll also advance your place in the world considerably.